Aloha, Happy New Year, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. It's 2025, and here we are. Today is January 3rd, and I want to talk about my first read of the year, The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. This is a modern science fiction historical drama with a dash of romance, published by Simon & Schuster in 2024. This is Kellyanne Bradley's debut novel, published in her 30s. She's a British-Cambodian writer who started this story as a joke in lockdown and dove in headfirst when she started learning about the Franklin expedition, whose members mysteriously went missing and were never found in the Arctic hundreds of years ago. She fixated on one member in particular, Commander Graham Gore, and the rest is history, as they say. The narrator was actually a character she was writing for another book, but when she dropped her into this story, she just fit. We actually don't know a lot about Graham Gore. What we know about him is through the accounts of the people that were around him. I've only heard good things about this book, so I was really excited going into it. This is a book about time travel, which is always an interesting plot device that you can do quite a bit with. The story centers on an unnamed narrator who is a bridge at the Ministry of Time, a small secretive department of the Ministry of Defense, part of the British government. Bridges help expats, the people that they bring from the past into our present, adjust to the modern era as they study the effects of time travel on the body and the mind. The narrator is the bridge to Commander Graham Gore, who she must help acclimate since he's from the Victorian era and living among the now is quite different. When I started the book, I was having a hard time tracking all the characters, so probably a little bit before halfway through, I ended up making a little cheat sheet that I stuck in the front flap that I could reference while I was reading. The book does come with a map of the Franklin expedition, which I'll talk about in a little bit at the beginning of the book, but unfortunately it doesn't come with a character list. My cheat sheet was helpful because the expats are connected to different eras in time, and the number that they're assigned is the year that they come from. All the expats are extracted from a time of major death where they wouldn't necessarily be missed if they were gone, which they had died in their own time, so it wasn't going to mess up the fabric of reality. I liked the narrator. She wasn't overly self-deprecating, and by the end I felt like I knew her, and like I liked her. Graham Gore is a boring Englishman with a penchant for adventure and a dash of low-key flirtatious charm. And according to the author, the real Graham Gore was quite the looker, and according to all the people that worked around him, quite kind. In the book, he doesn't know how to navigate women in his time or this one, and watching him figure it out was funny and sweet. With all that preface about time travel, you would think that there would be some action, but not much happens in the first 200 pages. We get introduced to the Time Door, which is the machine that the Ministry uses to bring people from the past into the now, but the book never leans hard enough into the science fiction of it all, which I know it isn't the focus of the book, and that's not the purpose of it, but I was just craving more. I enjoyed getting to know the other expats, but I wasn't super invested in them even by the end. The two lovebirds of the story don't even kiss until page 218 of a 322-page book. Come on now. I had to roll my eyes when it finally did happen because it had taken so long to get there. I should have just used the damn time door. When the twists came, I was underwhelmed. One of them I saw coming, and the other I didn't. Even with the one that surprised me, it flew in and flew out. I was like, oh, okay, bye. The ending was abrupt and it just hits you. And then there's nowhere to go. Bradley's writing style, though, especially in description, is masterful. This is the reason to read the book. It's as if putting visualization into words comes lyrically natural to her. I found myself highlighting with highlighting tape because it was a library book, line after line of beautiful visualism. And by the end, I was like, I need to get this book just so I can keep track of all these stunning pieces of English. She constructs it with a poise and a confidence that you normally only see in poetry. But in doing so, the plot makes certain sacrifices that, to me, aren't necessary. Plenty of scenes could have been cut to create a sense of urgency and danger, which is important in this kind of story, especially considering that this is a book analyzing time. It marinatingly pushes you to its end. Despite the shockingly good bites of descriptive prose, the plot wasn't enough for me. I really thought it was going to be a book that grabbed me and didn't let go, but I breezed through the pages without truly feeling its impact. And while I was reading, I even acknowledged in me this strange melancholy experience I was having. It's like I didn't dislike it enough to put it down, but I didn't love it enough to stay up all night to finish it. Although there was a little bit of a push for me to finish it because I needed to give it back to the library today. I could have easily given up on it, but I really wanted to see where it went, and I'm glad that I finished it. I liked how sentimental it got toward the end, and I'll admit it, I teared up for a moment. I just wish there was more of that emotion sprinkled throughout the book. It would have better connected me to the characters and to the material. As I was reading the final act, I was thinking, this already feels unresolved, and it's not even over yet. And then when it was over, looking back on the final act, it didn't feel like it was even trying to build to a sequel, which is fine. And with it being a slow burn, Bradley certainly had the space to take her time. See what I did there? Although there were times where I felt like she was taking a little bit too much of her time and she needed to speed it up a little bit. I think it's worth the read for the prose and the ending. But if you're not a fan of historical flashbacks in the olden days, then this may not be for you. It's certainly not a heart-pounding, sizzling romance either, if that's what you're looking for. It's a slow burn that leaves a little to be desired once it's over. People on social media set very high expectations for the book, so while I don't think it met them, and it didn't need to, this book was written without thinking about those expectations, I just wish it gave me a little bit more. I will say, I'm glad that I read it. I think now that Bradley has her debut out of her system, her next novel is going to be miles above this one. Which sucks to say because I don't want to degrade a previous work of an author, or in this moment, she doesn't have a second book published, so the current work, the only work that she has published, I don't want to bag on that one. But at the same time, you can feel her having these epiphanies and bits of brilliance, and it's as if she just doesn't know what puzzle to fit them into. I don't say this often, but this is one instance where I think a film adaptation would work phenomenally well. Do I recommend it? Yes. And that's it for my first book of the year. I started my second book last night, Jillian by Hallie Butler. Let me know what you're currently reading in the comments below. Mahalo for watching. I hope I've inspired you to read something today, and I'll see you next time. Good night.